BGMC. The biblical truth lives here.
Welcome to the City Gate Messianic Bible Study, being brought to you by Bethlehem Messianic Congregation. What is the importance of the biblical City Gate? It was a place contracts were made that are binding forever. The City Gate was also a place of redemption for the kinsman redeemer. The City Gate was a place where chastisement was administered. So come join us now as we enter into the City Gate Messianic Bible Study.
Let's go get a blessing. This is the City Gate Messianic Bible Study, part number 63. 60, I think it's 62 or 63. Anyway, 62 or 63. Sorry about the translation, everybody. I don't have translators, and I cannot speak fluently in Spanish, so I'm sorry for you Spanish-speaking people. We'll try to get things working as soon as we can. Okay, so we're in the City Gate Messianic Bible Study, Matthew chapter 5. So open up your Bibles to Matthew chapter 5. We're on verse 15 and 16. Last week we were talking about how verse 14 and 15 and 16 were actually one full teaching, and that it was the first time in that passage that Yeshua was giving more than a single proverb. So it's very important for us to fully understand each and every word. And as we get, as I was preparing for next week's Bible study class of this study of Matthew, there are key words that we see in verse 14, 15, and 16, like the word light. The word light is there's different meanings of the word light in each of those verses, so it's not the same light. There's a different understanding of the word world in verse 14, and everyone in verse 15, and then in verse 16, people. So it's very important to understand the words that Messiah Yeshua chose to give us for this teaching. It's very important for you to understand because there is a different concept in each verse, but these three verses, verse 14, 15, and 16, do go together as one part of his teaching. So let's read Mattiyahu 5, verse 14 through 16. You are the light for the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Likewise, when people light a lamp, they don't cover it with a bowl, but put it on a lampstand so that it shines for everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before people, that they may see the good things you do and praise your Father in heaven. Okay, so we're looking at that. What we're going to start off with this week is why Yeshua said, don't cover it. Okay, don't cover it. And if you want to be interactive with us, you can join us on WebEx, give the ministry a call. Let me put that number up on the screen. So if you want to be part of the Bible study and be interactive and ask questions, you can dial 973-338-7800. That's 973-338-7800. Okay, and if you want to be interactive with our Bible study, if you've missed any part of this Bible study, you can go to bethgoyim.org or bgmctv.org and watch the other parts. Like I said, this is part number 63 of this study, so it's over a year's worth of information, well over 2 hours per session, lasts a little bit, an hour and a half, so it's well over 100 hours on 15 verses of the Gospel of Matthew chapter 5. That's how much I love Yeshua, and that's how much it is important for you to really dig deep into Messiah's words. There's different layers about Messiah's teachings. There's the plain teaching, but then there's a more in-depth teaching that he talks about. So we're focusing on don't cover it. Okay, so don't cover it. In some translations, instead of the phrase don't cover it, Yeshua said put something under. And that's 5259 in the Greek, the G5259. And it's putting it by something or under something. Okay, so it's a very interesting concept. This one is a little easier than some of the other words like light in the different types of people group, where it said world in 14 and everyone in verse 15. And then let me just see. And what did he say in 16? He said people. Okay, so this one is somewhat not as deep as the other words, but the concept of putting it, that light by something or under something, that's a very important concept that we got to look at. Okay, so cover it. Let's go to our law of first reference in the complete Jewish Bible. So hold your place there in Matthew and turn in your Bibles to Bereshit, Genesis chapter 6, verse 14. Genesis chapter 6, verse 14. We're focusing on the cover it, and let's just read verse 15. Likewise, when people light a lamp, they don't cover it with a bowl, but put it on a lampstand so that it shines for everyone in the house. Okay, so covering it. We're looking at that in our first law of first reference in Genesis 6:14 from the complete Jewish Bible. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. You are to make the ark with rooms and cover it with pitch, both outside and inside. So here in the first reference, the covering was a protection for the ark. So, you didn't want the ark to sink. You didn't want to do that 100 years worth of work and for the ark to sink. That would have been bad. Not that the Lord would allow that to happen, but he gave specific instructions. Cover it with the pitch both inside and outside. So when you're covering this lamp, that Yeshua was talking about in verse 15 of Matthew 5, covering it, okay, would be to completely cover something so that it doesn't shine. Okay, you don't cover it. You don't completely cover it so it blocks out the light. Okay, so he's saying do the opposite of that. Don't cover it. Okay, so if the ark didn't have any pitch, it might have had went for a little while until the water got enough inside the ark, and then the ark would have sank. It's not a boat because it doesn't have a steering system. Okay, that's the difference between an ark and a boat. An ark doesn't have a steering system. It goes where the Ruach brings it or where Jehovah Elohim brings it. Okay, so let's read verse 14 again. And like I said, if you have any questions, please raise your hand because I can't see everybody on my screen. And or unmute yourself and say, I got a question. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. You are to make the ark with rooms and cover it with pitch both inside and outside. Okay, so if you're taking that concept of inside and outside, when Yeshua said, likewise, people light a lamp and they don't cover it. They don't cover it inside or outside. A lot of times people will morph into different personalities with different people groups. Okay, that's a concept that maybe Maureen you deal with in your profession, and I'm sure that everybody deals with. You're like you're at an event with a person that you normally know, interacting completely different because there's a different group of people, and we should not be different. We should be followers of Messiah 100% of the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, so your light that you're bringing in, don't cover it both inside and outside. Do not cover it. Okay, don't hide who you are. Don't hide who you are. It's a very important concept because a lot of people do hide who they are, especially in the times that we're living in today, with that report coming out, the Durham report on the level of evil that our country has come to. The dictator in Canada locking up finances. Okay, if you donated to the convoy, the truckers, we live in a world that's really going to be, especially America. Okay, we're reading here in Bereshit 6 verse 14 about the flood. You know, Jehovah said actually in that chapter, the imagining of our heart was always evil. So we, the believers, have to bring the light both inside and outside. Don't be afraid who you are. If you've chosen to follow Yeshua, don't hide who you are. Trust in him. Okay, your life might change, but don't worry. This life is very short. Eternity is long. At minimum, you know, you're going to be there 1,000 years. Okay, so we'll read verse 14 again. Make yourself an ark or go for wood. You are to make the ark with rooms and cover it, with pitch both outside and inside. Okay, now I'm sure you've met believers that you don't know, that you really didn't recognize them as believers outside of congregation. Okay, that's why I told the story a while ago that Rebbitzin and I, a couple months ago, were out food shopping, and we saw a family from the congregation. You know, I wasn't in torn up jeans, and my Rebbitzin, you know, was looking as demure as she always does, with her head covered and looking proper as we went outside. What if we were to be seen by somebody in the congregation and we, you know, she didn't have her head covered, or she was wearing clothing that didn't represent the office that she has as Rebbitzin? So don't cover it. Yeshua was saying, don't cover your light. Okay. Now, we think it's hard today to be a believer. Imagine the stress and just what they went through, the first believers. You know, we have 2,000 years of history. We have the whole Bible from Genesis through to Revelation. You know, these people were meeting Messiah for the first time and choosing him, you know, when there was Judaism and paganism in Israel. Okay, so he's saying, now this could be a radical idea that he's teaching in Matthew 5 here. Don't hide your light. You know, the only people that really, there's two groups of people that really understand this nowadays. Because the American Christian doesn't understand it. The Orthodox Jews understand it. Because if they believe like I came to know Messiah when he revealed himself to me. The Orthodox Jew who lives in the community of an Orthodox community loses his family, loses his job, loses everything when he believes in Messiah. And many times Orthodox Jewish families have a funeral for that person. Another group of people that would understand this in-depth verse of Matthew 5, verse 15 is somebody who's an Arab or a Palestinian, okay, or a Muslim that comes to know Messiah Yeshua, okay, and they take their lives in their hands, as did the first century believers, as we see from the book of Acts. Before Rav Shaul heard Messiah Yeshua and got knocked off his horse, you know, he was out killing people. Remember, the first believer that was killed was Stephen, you know, and he knew scripture well because he gives them a whole, you know, history lesson. So Yeshua is saying, don't cover it. Cover the ark with pitch both inside and outside. Don't cover it with anything. Okay, anybody got any questions or comments on that part? That's pretty good. I liked it. All right, get your coffee. All right, let's go on to the next part. Turn to Shemot Exodus chapter 10, verse 5. Shemot Exodus chapter 10, verse 5. We're lining this up with Matthew 5, verse 15. Likewise, when people light a lamp, they don't cover it with a bowl, but put it on a lampstand so that it shines for everyone in the house. Shemot Exodus chapter 10, verse 5. If you're on YouTube and you don't see the Bible study live on Tuesday night, or the Sledgehammer Show, which we're going to be changing the format a little bit, we're going to be talking about the laws of God in context of society. So we're going to have a real good discussion. And you can always see us on yeshuatube.org, and you can always go to all the teachings on bgmctv.org. Exodus Shemot 10, verse 5. One won't be able to see the ground so completely. The locusts cover it. They will eat everything you still have that escaped the hail, including every tree you have growing in the field. Okay, so now the next reference that I chose for this is how the locusts in this plague that happened during, for the 10 plagues that before Israel got released from bondage, before Yehovah took us out of Egypt, Mitzrayim. Okay, the locusts so completely covered the ground. Okay, this light you want to completely cover you, like the boat, like the ark. I keep saying boat. Ark was covered with pitch, both inside and outside, so it was airtight. Okay, the locusts, Yehovah said, they completely covered the ground. Okay, so when you stepped on it, it was crunch, crunch, crunch. Okay, ew. Okay, so let's read verse 5 again. One won't be able to see the ground. So completely will the locusts cover it. They will eat anything you still have that escaped the hail, including every tree you have growing in the field. Okay, so let your light shine both inside and outside the home. Okay, now that might be hard for some people, because through the years of the ministry, we've met many people. Okay, sorry for that delay, everybody. I'm playing technician and I'm wearing 5,000 hats at one time just to bring out the gospel. Okay, so we're back. Sorry about the translation. We don't have that either, but there's only so much I can do. All right, so I hope you had the time to go to the bathroom and get your cup of coffee. Okay, get something to drink, have an ice cream, some cookies, some cake. Now we're back to our study. Part 2 of number 63. All right, so we're in Matthew 5, verse 15. Likewise, when people light a lamp, they don't cover it with a bowl, but put it on the lampstand so that everyone shines for everyone in the house. Okay, now we're back in Exodus chapter 10, verse 5. One won't be able to see the ground so completely will be the locusts cover it. They will eat anything you still have that escaped the hail, including every tree you have growing in the field. Okay, so now as we were talking about earlier before the crash of the computer, and not the crash of the economy, that's coming, but the crash of the computer, covering it. Yeshua said, don't cover it. So the locusts completely covered the ground. So think of the opposite of that. So if there was no locust, they didn't cover the ground at all. So here in the reference of Shemot 10:5, Exodus 10:5, they completely cover the ground. So let the light of Messiah completely cover your life. Okay? Let the light of the Lord completely cover your life. Okay? Don't let any part of your life escape the light. Okay? Don't cover it with anything. When you get saved, let Yeshua completely change your life. Okay? Allow it to happen. Be moldable clay. Okay? Don't be hard clay. Hard clay breaks. Let the living water allow it to flow inside of you. Okay? So be who you are and don't worry about other people when they don't like you. Any questions or comments about that part? Oh, we got another Catholic group. They're going to be quiet. All right. Now we're going on to next slide. Next reference to covering it with Psalm 91. Keep holding your place in Matthew 5. We turn now to Psalm 91. Psalm 91. Psalm 91. We're going to look at verse 1 through 4. Now, this is an interesting one because it talks about covering and how Jehovah covers us. So, let's look at this. You who live in the shelter of Elyon, who spend your nights in the shadow of Shaddai, who say to Jehovah, my refuge, my fortress, my God in whom I trust. He will rescue you from the trap of the hunter and the plague of calamities. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you'll find refuge. His truth is a shield and protection. Now, Messiah Yeshua quoted this psalm when he said, how long I'd wish to gather you under my wings. Now, how many of us, if the Lord was covering us, how many of us would not want him to cover us totally? Okay, nobody will, right? If the Lord's covering you, when you want him to cover you totally, cover every part of you, every part of your life. So that's what Yeshua is talking about, especially since he quoted this psalm when he said, how long I wish to cover you, gather you under my wings. Okay, when he was crying over Jerusalem. Okay, so let's read those 4 verses again. You who live in the shelter of Elyon, who spend your nights in the shadow of Shaddai, who say to Jehovah, my refuge, my fortress, my Elohim in whom I trust, he will rescue from the trap of the hunter and from the plague of calamities. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His truth is a shield and protection. Okay, so add that to Matthew 5, verse 15. Likewise, when people light a lamp, they don't cover it with a bowl, but put it on a lampstand so that it shines for everyone in the house. Okay, so when you're shining your light, remember, he's covering you with his pinions. His truth is a shield and protection. Okay, if you're walking with Yeshua, if you're walking with Elohim, trust in him. Believe me when I say it, in all the years I've been doing this ministry, each year, even myself, I grow in trust. I'm not perfect. Only Messiah Yeshua is perfect. Okay, so each year I just see his wisdom, and I grow in. I didn't think my trust could grow anymore, and each day it grows even more. So that's what Yeshua is saying. Remember, we were talking about before we had to step away for a moment, that those first century believers, the people that Yeshua was talking to, had to trust completely because they had everything to lose. If you followed Messiah, if they killed Messiah, we have from the book of Acts that Shaul was killing believers. Now, as I said earlier, we don't have to really worry about it yet. It's coming. Believe me, it's coming, because we have Revelation to tell us that it's coming. If the whole world is joyous over the 2 prophets that lie dead in the streets of Jerusalem for 3 days, and Yeshua says you're going to be killed in his name. Okay, so here, before we get to that point in America, if we want to change things, if we want things to go back to a blessed nation, we have to start really bringing out the truth. We have to start living the truth. And that's the sad part about the body. They don't understand this anymore. They don't bring truth. They don't follow the law. They do whatever they want. Okay. So here he will cover you with his pinions. In verse 4, he will cover you with his pinion. Under his wings, you will find refuge. His truth is a shield and protection. Okay. So don't cover your light with a bowl. Don't hide it. Be who you're supposed to be. Be powerful. And when 2,000 years later, we're talking about a bunch of fishermen and one tax collector. They trusted in Yeshua and they gave their lives fully for his purposes. Okay? Any questions or comments about the reference to covering? All right, we're moving on to the next part. Since you guys are so talkative during Bible study. I feel like I'm sitting alone in the classroom. All right, now we're going to look at the Brit Hadashah. That's the New Testament, about covering it. No, we're not, because I missed a slide. All right, now we're moving on to bowl. Okay, sorry about that. I missed a slide. I'm not going to take any more time since we had that one part. So now let's go back to Matthew 5, verse 15. Matthew 5, verse 15. And if you want a copy of these slides, there's now, let me see how many slides are. Right now, there's 1,184 slides. 1,184 slides. So this is a very comprehensive study. It is on the levels of a better covenant, meaning the better covenant means that you're at college level now. Beth Going, teaches from babies to college level, which most people are at kindergarten level now. All right, so now we're going back to Matthew 5, verse 15. Likewise, when people light a lamp, they don't cover it with a bowl and put it on a lampstand so that it shines for everyone in the house. Okay, so now let's go back to the definition of a bowl. In some translations, it says basket, and in some translations, it says bushel. The Greek word is G3426, a dry measure holding 16 sextari, or 1/6 of an attic medimnus, about 9 liters. Okay, so that's a fair amount of bowl. A bowl, a pretty sizable bowl. So the sizable bowl would completely cover your light. Okay, it wouldn't be able to be shown to anybody. Okay, because it's a large bushel, a large basket, which will completely snuff out the light that you're trying to shine. So Yeshua says, don't cover it. Let it be like the ark, Noah's ark. Let it be like Noah's ark that had pitch both inside and out, completely airtight. Okay, like the locusts in the Exodus 10 verse 5 reference, where they completely cover the ground. So here, Yeshua chose a word in Greek, which was a word for a very large bushel, bowl, or basket. Okay, so that means you would be totally hiding your light. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, let's go to Bereshit, Genesis 40, verse 16 and 17. Hold your place in Matthew 5, verse 15, and go to Bereshit 40, verse 16 and 17. Give a second to find that. If you want to follow us, one of the social platforms we do check regularly is our Telegram feed. So follow us on Telegram. Follow BGMC on Telegram. So look up BGMC if you're on Telegram, and you get our updates for when we put new videos up. And that's on Telegram. Okay, we follow that. I'll check Facebook every now and then. You can also follow our videos on YouTube. Okay? And you can always look at all our teachings on bgmctv.org. Okay, everybody got Genesis 40, verse 16 and 17? Okay, now we're looking at the word basket. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was favorable, he said to Joseph, I too saw in my dream there were 3 baskets of white bread on my head. The uppermost basket, there were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but the birds ate them out of the baskets on my head. Okay, so now the basket we're looking at, the basket, okay, this first reference that we're looking at, the baker doesn't have a good outcome. The baker dies. Okay, the baker gets killed by Pharaoh. Okay, so when you're covering your light, now let's understand that reference. Because remember, Yeshua's the Word. He was there before anything was written. Okay, if we're understanding this reference correctly, why Yeshua chose a basket, why he chose a basket or a bowl, would this be this reference of the baker who had lost favor with Pharaoh, and if you cover your light with this bowl, you're going to lose favor with your king. Okay, and you don't want to lose favor with the king, right? Anybody want to lose favor with the king? No. Anybody want to keep favor with the king? You want to keep favor with the king? Give me a hands up, a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay, we want thumbs up. Okay, so you want thumbs up. I want to find favor with my king. Okay, you want to find favor with your king. You don't want the birds eating you don't want to eat white bread. White bread is just terrible. Rye, that's one thing I miss out of New York. A good Jewish Pector rye. Okay, so let's read those 2 verses again. So like I said, when I read the word, both the Tanakh and the Brit Hadashah, I always wonder why, especially in like Yeshua, like why did he choose a bowl? Why didn't he choose, something else? Okay, so we want to look and understand why that word. Why choose a bowl? Why not choose a bag? Why not choose a plate? Why not choose a rock? Anything. So why did he choose that word? And we need to understand it from the other scriptures to try to get some sort of concept of why he chose that word. And so, like I said, in many of the studies during this study of Matthew, once a word is established in the Tanakh, the Old Testament, it doesn't change its meaning in the New Testament, because remember, Yeshua is not teaching from the letter to the Colossians. Yeshua is not teaching from the book of Acts. He's teaching from the Tanakh, the Old Testament. Okay? So let's read Genesis 40, verse 16 and 17 again. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was favorable, he said to Joseph, I too saw in my dream. There were 3 baskets of white bread on my head. In the upmost basket was all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh. The birds ate them out of the basket on my head. So the gift that you were supposed to be, or the food that you were supposed to be bringing to your king, got eaten by the birds in your basket. So if you're covering your light with a bowl, you're not going to be giving that food to your king. You're not going to be giving that gift to your king. You're not going to be doing your job, and because the birds ate it. So the master is going to say to you, what have you done with the denarii he gave you? The birds ate it. Well, why didn't you protect that light? Why didn't you protect that gift? So it's very important to understand that concept. Because remember, as we talked about tonight, and I think it's a very important concept, if you're covering your light, do you think Yeshua is going to proclaim you at your trial? You know, is he going to proclaim you before his Father and his angels? If you were afraid to shine your light both inside and outside, well, in your home you'd be this holier than thou person. But as soon as you went outside, you had a foul mouth, your eyes wandered, you gossiped, you became the element that you were submerged in, you know. And sometimes in the fields that we work, it is very difficult to be a believer. You know, one of my sons is a mechanic, and sometimes some of the jobs that he had, a lot of the men that he worked with were not godly men at all. Now it's beautiful where he's working now for the first time in his career as an adult. He's working with at least Christians that, you know, and the owner is an associate pastor. He's also the owner of a very good mechanical good shop. So we've chosen men to work for him who reflect Messiah, at least in a Christian light. So the men that my son Connor is working with are not like the men in the past who used foul language, treated women as objects, fought with people, drank. So these people don't. So what Yeshua is saying, don't hide your light. You know, if people want to be pagans, let them be pagan. That's fine. But why should you hide your light because you're working with pagans? So here, you don't want that basket. You don't want that basket to lose its gifts for your king. So if you're hiding your light under the bowl, very large bowl, then you are going to have your gifts taken. All right. Any questions or comments about that one? Nobody's speaking up
I
tonight.
have a comment.
Okay, Maureen, go ahead.
I am. Yeah. I have a comment.
Your signal is off. Try turning your camera off for a moment and then just talk. There you are. You're back. Now you're gone. Now you're back. Now you're gone. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Your bandwidth is low, so why don't you turn off your camera? Then I'll be able to hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
It's choppy. Now you've gone to white. Now you're black. All right, does anybody else have a comment while Maureen works out some technology?
I have a comment, Rabbi.
Go ahead.
Shalom. As believers, I mean, in my personal experience, I did have coworkers that basically, in other words, they would tell me, "Oh, you're not part of our group because you're different. You really don't fit in with us." And to me, it was quite fine because I was basically at my job. I was basically like a loner. Was always by myself. Other people had other interests, and each they always have their little groups. I didn't fit into any of them because, you know, they were doing other things that I just did not appeal to me, and the things that I would never do either. But for people like us, in my case, is something that we need to. I'm a loner. I've always been a loner. I don't need to be surrounded by people because I'm always reading my books, and I read the Bible, and I find that refuge that I need in the Lord. But when, in order to approach people, to speak with them, it is difficult once they label you, "Oh, you're not like me." So in my case, I've had to dust the sand of my shoes and keep walking. So it's something that I have to get used to be the outsider. Maybe in this new state, it will be different. Maybe the people near New York, they were a bit more aggressive and they had other ideas. But over here, maybe they'll be. I absolutely liked when I'm driving, I see Bible verses by the street. They have these signs, and you see all over the place. At least in this area, I've seen "In God We Trust." and you see the Bible verses all over. And when you tell somebody at the store, thank you very much, have a great day, and may God bless you, some people say, may God bless you too. And that's a good thing. That was my comment.
It is a little bit different down here, at least on face value. But as things progress in the world out of control, whether or not war happens, but after seeing this Durham report, the judgment that's coming, you got to choose where you want to be. And that's what Messiah was telling these people. And I think it's very important that we're doing this study, that the Lord has led me to go back to doing, Yeshua's words in Matthew 5, because it's an encouragement from him. Because those people had to choose, the Christian believers in the Middle East, a Muslim who leaves Islam, or even an Arab that accepts, the Jewish Messiah, really takes their lives in their hand. The Christians in Asia, a lot of those countries, so it is something that we have to really hold on to. And, Yeshua is saying, don't cover your light, no matter what. And I think many people fail at that. And if you're not doing something for the kingdom, every day, well, I read. No, in the times that we're living in, we need to do something that's more than just your household, more than just your family or your children. You have to do, because we have to proclaim it. And what Yeshua is saying in Matthew 5, verse 15, don't cover it. Let that light go far and wide. Okay? And, as we read from the other part, Psalm 91, trust in him. So if you're working, let your integrity speak for you. If you're working for the kingdom, you don't have to proclaim, the word. You have to live the word. Okay, Ariadna, go ahead.
I have a question, Rabbi. You know that you just finished saying that you have to basically not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. I have my question comes down to there is in the news that that this woman helped a homeless man, and she brought him into her house so he can sleep and spend the night and not just to be in the street as a homeless. And this guy basically kind of like cut her throat.
He killed her.
So yeah, he killed her. So you know I'm I don't know if she knew the Bible or if she knew the lore, but sometimes you try to do as much as you can, and you don't need to be a believer actually for you to do the right thing, because I'm speaking for myself. Even though that I know the Lord, I've been helping people as much as that I can, even before I met the Lord, because that's how they raised me. But in that case, to the question that I was asking, I mean, in that case, what happened? That she was trying to do the right thing, following Torah without her knowing, and that thing happened.
Okay, so my wife and myself were talking about this at breakfast this morning. Yeshua says, be as wise as a serpent and as gentle as a dove. Okay, so a single woman letting a single man into their home is highly against the Torah, because you shouldn't have that. Okay, yes, it was good to want to help the person. So, say, here, let's go over to this laundromat. I'll bring the soap. We'll buy soap there. You can I'll wash your clothes for you. Okay, and you have to be wise. Okay, now remember, the laws are for the community, and we talked about this in the Road to Emmaus, I think 2 weeks ago, that you're supposed to help a fellow person of the community. That means somebody who's following God. Okay, her first mistake was she's a single woman, he's a single homeless man, and that's the first error because Shaul talks about an unevenly yoked home. Okay, so don't do it. Yes, she wants to help, okay, but you have to be wise. Be in an open place so that, you want to help the person clean the clothes. Okay, they're homeless. Take them to a laundromat. Do their laundry. Take them to the laundromat. Get all the money and put all their clothes in all the machines, and then you can leave. And give them the money for the extra stuff to dry the clothes. Okay, so she had a good heart but bad execution. She was not as wise as a serpent. She was gentle as a dove, and now she's dead. Okay? The scriptures are very clear when you read it fully. Okay? That we are commanded by Torah to help the poor and the unfortunate of the community. We're going to be talking about this on the Sledgehammer show tomorrow with the crew. We're changing the format a little bit to talk about the laws in light of the events going on in the world. So we're going to quote a law. We're going to have a good roundtable discussion between the men who fear God, and we're going to talk about subjects like that. What does God say in His laws about this? Okay, Ariana?
Yes, Rabbi. Another question that has with that. Would she be by Torah? Would she be in heaven?
Yeshua says those who are killed in His name. So I don't know enough about this person to say if she was a follower of Messiah Yeshua, or was she just being a good person?
Okay. Okay, Rabbi. Thank you.
Hey, Rabbi Hoshua, we'll forego translation for tonight since we're already an hour in. I thank you for popping on. I don't know. Do you think translation will be good for a half hour? All right, let's do it. All right, we're going to have no translation. Thank you. Are you tired?
No, I'm good. I'm fresh.
Did you have a nice day?
Oh, yeah.
I prayed for you. All right, so we're moving on. We're in Matthew 5, verse 15 again.
Entonces vamos de nuevo. Estamos en Mateo 5:15 de nuevo.
Okay, now everybody turn to Exodus 29, verse 32 and 33.
Vámonos a Éxodo 29, de los versículos 32 al 33.
Let me fix this one. Could you just speak for 1 second there, Rabbi Joshua?
Shalom, shalom. Estamos haciendo el estudio bíblico en Mateo 5. Vamos a estar leyendo Éxodo 29 del versículos 32 y 33.
All right, now we got both of us on the screen. All right. Exodus 29, verse 32 and 33 says, Aaron and his sons will eat the ram's meat and the bread in the basket at the entrance to the tent of meeting. They're to eat the things with which atonement was made for them, to inaugurate and consecrate them. No one else may eat this food because it is holy. All right, so now we're tying this together with Yeshua's teachings in Yeshua's teaching in Matthew 5, verse 15.
Estamos uniendo este versículo, este entendimiento ahora con el versículo de la enseñanza de Yeshua, Mateo 5, verso 15.
Okay, so Yeshua is saying don't cover your light.
Yeshua ya mencionó que no cubras tu luz.
And he was taught, in a reference is a bowl in the CJB, but it was a basket in other translations.
Entonces, en otras traducciones estaba diciendo como si fuera una vasija. En este dice como una canasta. Está mencionando también en la otra versión.
So in the reference of Shemot, Exodus 29, verse 32,
y la referencia de Éxodo 29, 32,
this basket had meat and bread in it, which was consecration.
Y en en este versículo de Éxodo, en esta canasta, hay pan y hay carne, que es una referencia a consagración.
So if you're covering your light, which is Yeshua, in your life,
Si estás cubriendo la luz que es Yeshua en tu vida,
you're throwing away your consecration.
estás lanzando fuera la consagración.
So if you're covering, let me just read Matthew 5, verse 15.
Entonces, si estás codiciando, y voy a leer este verso 15 de Mateo 5 para ustedes.
Likewise, when people light a lamp, they don't cover it with a bowl, but put it on a lampstand so it shines for everyone in the house. So this bowl is this thing that's filled with a consecration of your priesthood.
Y esta vasija que se menciona es un objeto que está lleno de la consagración de un sacerdote.
So if you're covering that light, it means you're covering your job as a priest.
Si cubres esa luz, es como si estás opacando tu trabajo como sacerdote.
So Yeshua is saying, don't cover that light.
Y Yeshua ya dijo, no cubras la luz.
Be consecrated and do your job the way you're supposed to do your job.
Sé consagrado y haz tu trabajo de la forma que se supone que debes de hacerlo.
Okay? Now, if you're hiding that light,
Entonces, si estás cubriendo o tapando la luz,
one of the things you would have to do is flip the basket over.
una de las cosas que deberías de hacer entonces es voltear la canasta o el frasco que está cubriendo.
So if you flip the basket over, that means you've thrown that consecrated food on the ground.
Y si volteas esa canasta, estarías entonces tirando en el piso esa comida de consagración.
So would you throw that consecration food on the ground?
¿Sería que te atreves a tirar ese alimento de consagración en el suelo?
And what would God think of you if you did that?
¿Y qué sería lo que el Eterno va a pensar de ti si haces eso?
So if you're covering your light, then you're doing the same thing by getting rid of that consecrated food.
Y si estás cubriendo tu luz, sería como hacer lo mismo que estar derramando y botando la comida de esa comida consagrada en el piso.
Okay, any questions or comments about that? All right.
¿Será que hay preguntas o comentarios?
All right, let's move on to the next part. Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah 24, verse 2 and 3.
Ahora vamos a avanzar un poco. Vamos a Jeremías 24, versos 2 y 3.
Jeremiah 24, verse 2 and 3.
Jeremías 24, versículos 2 y 3.
Now we're focusing once again on the word basket.
Y una vez más estamos enfocándonos en la palabra canasta.
One of the baskets had in the very good figs and like those that ripen first, while the other basket had very bad figs, so bad that they were inedible. Then Jehovah asked me, Yirmiyahu, what do you see? I answered, figs. Figs, the good figs are very good, but the bad ones are very bad. So bad they are inedible. Okay, so now if you're covering your light with a basket,
Entonces ahora si estás cubriendo tu luz con una canasta,
the reference of Jeremiah speaks of either very good fruit or very bad fruit.
la referencia de Jeremías está refiriendo a comida buena y a una comida que está desperdiciada o mala comida.
If you're covering your light, then you are bad fruit.
Si cubres tu luz, entonces estás siendo un mal fruto.
And if you're bad fruit, do you think God is going to let you into his kingdom?
Y si eres una mal fruta o los frutos son malos, ¿será que el Eterno te dará acceso a su reino?
But if you allow that light to shine,
Pero si deja que tu luz, que la luz brille,
then your fruit will be very good fruit.
entonces tus alimentos, las frutas, serás un buen fruto.
Okay, so let's read verse 2 and 3 again.
Leamos por favor versos 2 y 3 de Jeremías 24.
One of the baskets had in it very good figs, like those that ripen first, while the other baskets had very bad figs, so bad that they were inedible. Then Jehovah asked me, Yirmiyahu, what do you see? I answered, figs. The good figs are very good, but the bad ones are very bad, so bad they are inedible. Now, the last word is important in the English.
Repeat that again, please.
The last word is very important in the English
Y esta última palabra que utilizamos es muy importante en el inglés,
because he's saying the fruit is inedible. You can't eat it.
porque él ha mencionado que esa fruta no se puede, es algo que es incomible, no se puede comer.
So what do you do with fruit that you can't eat?
¿Qué haces con las frutas que no te puedes comer?
You give it to the pigs or you just let the animals eat it, right?
Serían echados a los cerdos o a los animales para que lo coman.
So if you're covering your light
Si estás cubriendo la luz
with this basket,
con esta canasta,
then you're going to be like inedible fruit and God's not going to use you.
serías como ese alimento que no se puede comer y el Eterno no te va a utilizar.
And if he's not going to use you, do you think he's going to bless you?
Y si Él no te puede utilizar, ¿será que te va a bendecir?
Okay, so if you're covering that light with this very large bowl or basket,
Si estás cubriendo esta luz, esta gran luz con una canasta grande o esta vasija,
then it would show Jehovah or Yeshua that you are embarrassed by that light.
eso va a mostrarle al Eterno y a Yeshua de que estás avergonzado de la luz.
You are you're embarrassed. You're afraid of that light.
Es como que tienes vergüenza de la luz o te da vergüenza tener la luz o te da, sí, temor de tener la luz.
And if you're embarrassed of Yeshua's light, then what do you think he's going to do when you're in his court?
Si te avergüenzas tener la luz de Yeshua, entonces, ¿qué crees que va a acontecer cuando estés en la corte de Yeshua?
Now remember, he's saying this to those first century people that would become the first believers.
Y recuérdate que está mencionando esto y se lo está diciendo a aquellas personas que son esos primeros creyentes, los primeros seguidores en el primer siglo prácticamente.
And they had everything to lose, as we've said tonight from the book of Acts.
Y ellos tenían todo que perder, así como vimos en el libro de los Hechos.
So are you like those people, not afraid of bringing the truth forward no matter where you are?
Y eres como aquellas personas que 100% directa y pues no tienen miedo de traer la palabra donde quiera que se encuentren.
Are you strong enough to proclaim the Lord no matter where you go?
¿Eres lo suficientemente fuerte para proclamar el nombre del Eterno, no importa dónde te encuentres?
Would he call you a good piece of fruit or a bad piece of fruit?
¿Será que él te llama buen fruto o una mala fruta?
Now let's put let's put at least two pieces together.
Vamos a colocar entonces las dos partes juntas ahora.
In the reference from Exodus 29,
En la referencia que leímos de Éxodo 29,
this basket or this bowl held consecrated food for the priesthood.
esta canasta que mencionamos contiene prácticamente esos alimentos que consagran al sacerdote.
In the Jeremiah scripture, the bowl held good fruit.
Y entonces en la escritura de Jeremías también hay canastas o estas vasijas que contienen buenos alimentos.
And in this reference, it said fig fruit.
Y en esa referencia habla de esta fruta de higos.
And that fruit is for healing. It heals your body in many different ways.
Esta fruta tiene componentes que sanan tu cuerpo en diferentes formas.
Okay. Now, there's even a reference of putting fig paste on a wound and it will heal the wound.
Incluso hay referencias de que si se coloca partes del higo en el estómago, pues trae sanidad para esa parte.
Okay. Any questions or comments as we end that section?
¿Alguna pregunta o comentario ya que hemos completado esta sección?
I can't see everybody, so if you want to say something, put your hand up or just unmute yourself.
Y si necesitas no puedo ver a todo el mundo, si tienes preguntas o comentarios, puede abrir sus micrófonos y hacerla, por favor.
All right, let's move on to the Brit Hadashah. Let's make sure I have that one. All right, let's go into Brit Hadashah to Revelation 8.
Entonces vamos a avanzar al Nuevo Testamento, al Brit Hadashah, en Revelaciones, Apocalipsis 8.
Revelation 8.
Esto es Apocalipsis 8.
We're going to read verse 2 through 5.
Y vamos a estar leyendo de Apocalipsis 8 del versículo 2 al 5.
Revelation 8, verse 2 through 5.
Apocalipsis 8, versículo 2 al 5.
And I'll try to put the two pieces of this study together on the website tomorrow. So go to bgmctv.org and you'll be able to see it midday tomorrow.
Y vamos a intentar de colocar las dos partes juntas, así que puede visitar y ver todo esto en bgmctv.org y encontrarás las dos partes ahí alrededor de mediodía mañana.
And the first hour, I'm sorry, is only in English.
Y las primeras dos partes lamento mucho que sea solamente en el idioma inglés.
Revelation 8, verse 2 through 5 says, Then I saw 7 angels who stand before God. And they were given 7 shofars. Another angel came and stood at the altar with a gold incense bowl. He was given a large quantity of incense to add to the prayers of all God's people. On the gold altar in front of the throne, the smoke of the incense went up with the prayers of God's people from the hand of the angel before God. Then the angel took the incense bowl, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it down on the earth. And there followed peals of thunder, voices, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Okay, so the bowl in Revelation speaks of judgment.
Entonces estas vasijas en Revelaciones hablan de juicio.
Because he's filling the incense bowl, filled it with fire, and threw it down to the earth.
Porque llena esas vasijas del incienso con llenas de fuego y lo lanzan a la tierra.
We know from Revelation, the order of the book of Revelation
Y sabemos que por en Apocalipsis, el orden de revelaciones o Apocalipsis,
that in Revelation 6 we see the anti-Messiah revealed.
y vemos que en Revelaciones 6 el anti-Mashiach se muestra a sí mismo, o se revela.
And we know in the order of the seals precede the bowls and the shofar. The seals precede the shofar and the bowl judgments.
Por el orden que vemos, los sellos son abiertos y son se adelantan a lo que es el chofar y también las copas de ira.
So, tying this together with Matthew 5, verse 15,
Atando todo esto, uniéndole a Mateo 5:15,
if you're covering your light with a bowl, you're bringing judgment on yourself.
si cubres con esta vasija la luz, entonces estás trayendo a tu vida esos juicios.
Let me say that again. If you're covering that light with the bowl, Yeshua says you're bringing judgment on your own self.
Y voy a repetir una vez más, si cubres la luz con esas vasijas, estarás trayendo a ti mismo juicio.
Because if you're covering the light, that means you're embarrassed of the light, and Yeshua is the light.
Porque si estás cubriendo la luz con una vasija, quiere decir que te avergüenzas de la luz y Yeshua es la luz.
And if you're embarrassed of him, he's going to be against you at your trial.
Y si te avergüenzas de él, entonces va a estar en contra de ti en el tiempo del juicio.
All right. Any questions or comments on that part?
¿Será que hay preguntas o comentarios de esa parte?
Comentario.
Elba, go ahead.
Shalom.
Hello.
No, primeramente quiero darle las gracias porque está hablando más, no está hablando tan rápido como algunas veces que habla rápido. Entonces le estoy entendiendo un poquito más al inglés del rabino. Que mi inglés no es muy fuerte. Lo que yo también estoy haciendo, y gracias al Padre, yo puedo leer bastante, pero algunas palabras no. Entonces, lo que yo estoy haciendo es escribiendo lo que no puedo en inglés y después yo lo busco a ver qué es lo que quiere decir. O sea que siempre hay maneras de que uno pueda recibir el estudio cuando uno quiere. Y bueno, qué interesante este tema de la luz. Dígale al poquito que ella hable. Rabino Yachua. Abayachua.
Yes. She was saying that she appreciate the speed that is the teaching now, because she well, even as she can understand the English, the speed that you took now to explain the light and to make the connection between the verbs is like very clear for her. ¿Y qué más, hermanita?
También que yo quiero comentar que la luz, bueno, yo un ejemplo, ¿verdad? La luz, cuando se va la luz, vemos que todo es oscuro, ¿verdad? Entonces la luz también tiene ese significado. Es importante que siempre haya luz para que alumbre. Y así como alumbra una luz natural, también nosotros debemos de alumbrar con nuestras acciones, ¿verdad? Para que nosotros, ¿verdad? no se nos haga un juicio malo, ¿verdad? Cuando nosotros vayamos allá al cielo, ¿verdad? Que es por lo que estamos trabajando cada día, para que nuestra luz alumbre, no opaque. Yeah.
She also were saying that an example, using an example of a blackout, that when it happens in a house, then there's darkness right away. So it's the same idea that she has, like when something is, if you put a bulb or a basket in the light, then you gotta be in the dark. Her relation between that and the spiritual way, that our light, if we shine in the Lord, then it's gonna reflect also in heaven, because the Lord is gonna see it. The Lord is gonna see that you are pretty much active, and that your light is also gonna be that reflection is gonna affect in the court, the day of the day of your name is gonna be called up there. So
Amen.
amén.
Any other questions or comments?
¿Alguna otra pregunta, comentario?
Shalom, this is Messianic Rabbi Andrew Dinnerman. I would personally like to thank you for tuning in to the Remnant's Call each and every week. You can listen to the full message on our website, Bgmctv.org. If you have drawn closer to the King of Kings, learned more about Him today, we are blessed. If you are blessed by these messages, please consider a donation to our ministry. You can go to our website, Bgmctv.org. That's BETHGOYIM.org, and click on the donate button. You do not have to have a PayPal account to donate. All you need is a debit card. Once again, thank you very much for listening to The Remnant's Call.
If you have not taken your first steps to be born again, just ask God's help. Remember, it's His loving grace that has come to find you. No one is worthy or able to reach God, but God can reach us, and He's reaching out to you now. Just open your heart and let Him in. His arms are open, and the blessing of salvation and eternal life are waiting for you. Don't let it wait any longer.
Ya Adonai, panavoleka, vikuneka, Yisa Adonai, panavoleka, vayasem lecha, shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord lift His face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious unto you and give you His shalom. Shalom, my name is Messianic Rabbi Andrew Dinnerman, and I invite you to come to visit our congregation. If you are in the tri-state area, come out and visit with us on Shabbat. We are a congregation of Jews and Gentiles, living as one in the Messiah Yeshua. BGMC is a place of true worship. The focus never wanders from the Hebraic roots of our faith. Beth Goyim is rooted in the Word of God from Bereshit through to the book of Revelation. Messiah's strong words against man-made tradition are carefully recorded in Matthew 7. That is the reason we only follow the straight-up instructions found in Scripture, truly the way, the truth, and the life. If you're looking for a deeper walk with Adonai, come out for our Tuesday evening Bible study called Messianic Torah Time. Come, spend a day with us on any Shabbat. We start at 11 a.m. with the sound of the ancient Hebrew shofar. Next, we offer our King praise and worship in English, Hebrew, and Spanish. After worship, we review the headlines
in the previous week's news from around the globe, especially news from the Holy Land, Israel. We don't just list the news headlines as current events, but we comb through the scriptures, searching for clues to understand what they mean and then to help pinpoint prophetically our current position on Adonai's clock. After digesting all that modern information, we leave the world behind as we journey with our Adonai deep into his eternal word, not with just 1 or 2 scriptures, but usually 7 or more scriptures. The spiritual nourishment and the richness of his kingdom become accessible to the ones who share this special time and seek them out. The day does not end there. Because Shabbat is so special to him, there is always so much more that our King desires to share. So instead of separating and leaving, we stay together as a family for potluck lunch and an afternoon study of our King's Word. We close the Shabbat together with the reading of the new week's parashah. That's the Torah portion. Even after those blessings, many of us just can't get enough. So the members bring prepared homemade foods to share while we all enjoy an uplifting movie together. If all that information is not quite enough, you can check out our website where you will find over 200 video teachings and biblical holy day studies. Under Messianic Torah Time, the Hebrew Roots button, you'll discover free studies on many different topics, including PowerPoint slide presentations. If Beth Goyim sounds like a place you'd love to visit, but you live outside the tri-state area, there is still a way to connect with us. We stream live on the internet on Tuesday, Thursday, and Shabbat. The website is www.bethgoyim.org. That's BETHGOYIM.org. Our phone number is 973-338-7800 or 978-2-YESHUA. That's 978, the number 2, Yeshua. Shalom.